The plan for today is, so today we're going to be doing more, we'll do two things, and we'll be doing more text automation. So this will be part one of two parts. So part one today, first thing we're going to cover is automating and variabilizing in Photoshop. And then the second part, we'll do it in After Effects. So without further ado, let's get started. Where's Photoshop? Nope, that's Photo Booth. Okay, so Photoshop. The main use case I've had to use Photoshop for is basically generating lower thirds, right? And you want to do people will give you a huge long list of names, and the typical way what people would do is they'd say, okay, look, I have a lower third here. I'm gonna write their name and be like, hi, first name, and then something like that, and then do like a second name, right? And then, so on, so on. Keep editing those, and then file save as, and then you keep generating multiple of those. So instead of doing that, we can do something else. We can create variables in Photoshop, so you don't have to do that over and over. The way I'm going to do this, let me just create a quick little lower third here. Okay. Let's see. I don't like that color. Let's do a blue background. And then let's see. Something like this, right? And then, I don't know, we'll say like name and some sort of title, right? You get the point, something like this. So you want to, whatever these layers are called, after you're done creating your basic like layer here, what you're going to do is you're going to come up here to your image, and then there's something called variables, and you're going to define. So when you get to this page, you'll see we have all three layers here. And all you have to do then is just say text replacement for your title, and then text replacement for your this, and then we'll name it what we're going to call our variable. So I'll call name, and for title, I'll call it title. Okay. So now we've variabilized it. And the next we're going to do is we're going to create a CSV to actually get all the names. And so usually what I do is I'll tell Arman, I'll be like, hey, give me all these names on an Excel sheet. It doesn't have to be in Excel. You can do it in Excel, but the main things to do is to have everything comma separated. So what I would do is I'd say name and title as my two variable names. And then let's go down the list. I'll do, okay, Arman, and he's a person. Oops. And then I have Alyssa. She's also a person. And me, Twitter, Brian, Uncle, President Uncle. He's my brother. Okay, what else do we have on here? Raheem and say. And then okay. So once you do that, we'll just say this. This is just a text editor. You can do this with any text editor, but I'll just call this lower thirds .csv. And if you don't know what CSV stands for, comma separated values. And so now this file is a CSV, and you can open up CSVs in whatever application. Like by default, it'll open up in Excel. So if I open this, you'll see it'll be up here in Excel. And if I wanted to add more, you would just keep continuing on this. I recommend you don't start it in don't actually start the document in Excel, just because there's some encoding issues sometime. And when those encoding issues happen, you will unfortunately have some issues when you try to use the variable set. And I just noticed I accidentally added spaces. So I don't think you actually need to add spaces here. So now we'll go back to Photoshop here. And we shall go back to this variables. And now we can go to data sets. So up here we had defined, this is where we originally said, okay, title and name. And now what we have done is we're going to go to data sets. And this is where we've said, we have the name and title here as the first variables, and we've added all these people. So now I'm going to import this file, right? Hit OK. And now you see, if I hit preview, these are all variabilized. So in a very quick way, we have variabilized these two variables. The main thing to check here, the reason why I liked going left next on all of these is usually you'll get a list of names, and the titles and the names, the longest ones are the ones you want to check to make sure there's nothing error-wise if it's too long or if it's too short. And if it's just a one-off, then I usually will just manually tweak that one. But if it's a bunch of them that have that issue, then usually you'll edit your template a little bit, right? So now we have this, right, lower third. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to want to generate the, I want to export all of these. So it's really simple. All we have to do then is we're going to export. Then we go to export as. Oh, sorry, not export. Data sets as files, right? So this CSV we created, it was a data set, right? But we want to do data sets as files. And I will make a new folder for this. Choose that. If you had multiple data sets, you would or certain data sets, you would just choose that. And this is your naming convention here. So I can call this intro to variables. And then you can have, it has some like automatic features, right? You can use the number or whatever. And you can choose your file extension and everything. But this will be how one would look like. So it would be like dataset number in Photoshop. So once you press OK, I have the folder selected. Yeah, okay. It should render out all your files here. So you can see really quickly, we have generated a bunch of different lower thirds. And that's it for Photoshop. Any questions there before I go on After Effects? Fairly simple, self-explanatory. Okay, cool. I'll go on to After Effects next. Okay, so After Effects is where I actually found a nice little plugin to help with this automation. It's a little bit different in the fact that we don't have a flat file to work with. There's After Effects. Okay, here's After Effects. So let's get a lower third template put in. And this obviously you don't have to use this only for lower thirds, but we can use it for whatever. Okay. So there are some limitations with this plugin. So bear with me on this. All right. So here, the main limitation is that each like in Photoshop, we have to have the variable as its own text layer, and this is only it can only work for text layers. So what I'll do, so I can't, you see here, this is all one block of text, right? Like I can't have everything in one. What I'd have to do is I'd have to come in and create 2 new text layers. So just copy. Oops. This and okay, and put that here, and then here. All right, and I'm not going for accuracy here. Okay, I'm just gonna copy this mask real quick into these. And I'm pressing U to show the keyframes here. I'm just gonna accidentally move this here, so I'm gonna have to move it all the way here for these keyframes. So I'm just moving these keyframes back into position, and I'm just approximating right now. But if you hold down Shift, it'll actually sort of snap a little bit. Okay, so now I have these 2 things. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do is I want to actually edit the text here to actually say name and title, because that is what we called our variables, if you remember. And the script will only recognize it if you have the same name and title hooked up together. Yeah, I think I did it lowercase. I don't remember. But we can find out. And so just a quick question. Does everybody know how to install scripts in After Effects, or I guess it's very similar to Premiere and Photoshop. Does anybody want me to go through that as well?
Yeah, that would be good. I haven't done that before yet.
Okay, sure. So usually your script files will come as a .jsx. It's JavaScript, right? And so if you're on a Mac, you would go into your applications, and then whatever Adobe you're looking for, and then you'll go into scripts. And then here's the one I want. I'm gonna move this out real quick and put it back in downloads. So we'll go to your applications, and then After Effects, and then if you put it in scripts and you just drag this in here, it'll save here. Mine already has it. You'll have to authenticate just to make sure, and then you'll have it in this scripts folder. And then once you restart, it'll actually show up in your After Effects panels. So I'll show you now. So what you want to do is you want to first select your composition here. And when you go to File, Scripts, you'll see this in this menu here. If you don't have it in this menu here, what you can also do is you can just run script file. And what it'll do is you'll be able to select that actual script file from wherever, that .jsx, and you'll be able to utilize that for your composition. So I already have mine installed, so I'm just gonna go File, Scripts, and then it's called CSV to text layers .jsx. So I'll click on that, and so now it wants you to select this CSV file. You see this all looks good. I'll click open, and then what you see here, it created each new composition with the same text that we had before. So now I just want to go through to make sure all of these are set up. Right. So everything here looks good. Then what we would do next to export all of this is we're going to go to file. Well, first we're going to do, we're going to select all of these. And then we can go to file, export. And then here everyone knows you can either go render queue, Adobe Media Encoder queue. And I just updated to, so it might be the 2021 version, who knows. So give that a second. Alrighty. So we have Media Encoder and still taking its time. Seems to be taking a while for some reason. I wonder if I can just drag this on. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So now all of these are here. I'm not going to render all of them, so I'll just delete a few. Sorry, whoever I just mixed. But we'll render these three so you guys can see the example. But then all one by one, it'll go through and render all of these out. And that's really the basics of how you can mass script a bunch of these in terms of your layers. Okay, so while that's rendering out, I mean, I can just not render it out. I just want to make sure it works before I say it works. Okay, well, anyways, while that's rendering out, does anybody have any questions on what we just did here? Well, I'll upload this this JSX file to everyone. I'll send out a link. Once I get that, I'll get that hosted somewhere, and you guys will be able to download it. No questions. Everyone pretty simple. Everyone learning all the cool tricks. I've been telling people it's been easy for such a long time. But yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So if nobody has questions, I'm going to go over some other additional things. I'm going to challenge myself with some questions. Okay, so let's say a lot of times, you know, I did a very straightforward example here in our little demo where everything is a fairly simple, you know, one word name and title, right? What do we do when we have commas in our titles, right? Like a lot of times, like, well, it'll be like Atlanta, Georgia. What are we going to do in this case when we have something like this? Anyone have any ideas? See, it treats it as another third column because you have another comma there.
You put it in quotes or anything?
We can try that. It's like this.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Then So it's always remember, you always remember you gotta select this first, otherwise it won't work. Nice. There is, I don't think it'll work in Photoshop though. Photoshop has some other quirks around it. Let me go to Photoshop real quick. So in Photoshop, if you did that same thing, did it work? Oh yeah, it did work. Okay, cool. There's some other things I've done where it doesn't work this way. And it actually, the quotation marks, or if you had let's say, let's say there's quotation marks inside of there, right? Like the actual, I wonder if you could do double quotes or if you could do single quotes around it. I haven't tried that before. But in those cases, what I actually do is instead of doing a CSV file, you can actually, if you open up an Excel, right? Oh yeah, Excel did not like that. So what I actually like to do is I'll format this just like this, right? Because if you're doing this all in Excel, you're gonna be getting this like like a bunch of these, and you can't necessarily go around unless you want to do some regex. You don't want to go every single one and go like, okay, add a quotation mark here, add a quotation mark here, right? So what do we do in that case? And if there's other special items that we have going, what we do in that case is we'll just go to File, Save As, and instead of a CSV, we can actually do a tab delimited text. So it'll be a .text file, and that'll also work. And so this is going to be a tab delimited lower thirds file. Okay, so now if I open this up, you see that there's no commas here anymore. Everything just has a tab after it. And that should also work in After Effects and Photoshop. So you can see all of these still work. And so that's sort of the quick way of doing it. And also, by your quotation mark method is also a good way of doing it if you are good at regex. Similarly, I'll show in Photoshop. Make sure it works there as well. Import. As you can see. Sorry, I'm saying the wrong thing. But now we have all our commas in here as well. So those are the main things to know in terms of, I think I deleted it, so much must have failed. I don't know if this one passed. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So yeah, it just takes some time to render out, but as you can see, you don't have to mess around much after you got all the templates done. And then just note a tab delimit if you have if you have special characters or commas in your mass text or whatever you're doing repetitively. Anything else? Anyone have any other questions, or anyone want to try it live and we can watch you try? Just make sure you can do it. Dang, tough crowd. Everyone's silent. So yeah, I guess I mean this is part one to automation. Part two is going to be a lot more technical, and we'll have some prerequisites for that portion. Uh, it's likely going to involve a little bit more technical know-how and profess. We'll probably need to know. I would say I think you might need to have Python installed before we do it. And I'll it's not required, but it speeds up my workflows. But I think I shared with Raheem the script I use for that. It's fairly straightforward as well. It should also be another short, hopefully 30-minute session as well, where we can go through and show you how to a lot of these templates that we've been using for these broadcasts have been After Effects templates, and a lot of us have been just replacing images one by one. Well, that is no longer the case. We'll go through how to do mass images in our next part two of this automation series.